What's up, guys? So this week I've got an interview for you. It's Ehud Asherie, Jon-Erik Kellso and Charles Goold. Brilliant jazz trio. So I've got a performance by them, an interview, and then another performance. Please enjoy. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys about artflix. So artflix is a project I'm working on with a few friends. It's a decentralized application for streaming concerts and performances where artists receive 100% of the ticket revenue generated. We plan on doing this by following the Wikipedia business model, a model of voluntary donation, so therefore artists can benefit directly and immediately, and we can provide a service that they're willing to donate to. Thanks a lot. Please check the links underneath and enjoy the video.
2, 3, 4.
when was the first time you realised you wanted to be a musician? And together with that one, how did you first try to become a musician?
Oh, okay. I guess I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
I think I realized that when I was 13 years old, I discovered a Thelonious Monk greatest hits tape in my parents' tape collection, or whatever. So then I listened to that, and I really liked that. And then shortly after that, I went to Smalls in Greenwich Village. This is about 1994. And there I was like, wow, this is great. I want to do this. I want to be a jazz musician. And then after that, I would just, I studied piano always just because my parents kind of made me, but, and I was good, but I wasn't really into it. But then when I really got into jazz, then it really clicked, and I really got into it. And luckily the teacher I was having saw that, and he also played jazz piano, and he was a drummer too, and so he then realized, oh, I should instead of trying to make him play, classical stuff, let me show him about theory and all that stuff. So that really helped. And then, living in New York, I was hanging out already and going to clubs, so then I kind of got the bug that way, and then and the rest is history.
Yeah, great.
Or a bad decision.
The rest is history.
Oh, okay. So when I was 10 years old, I had the option to join the school band, and I thought that would be fun. So I told my parents I wanted to play the trumpet. That appealed to me. It looked like it was easy because there's only 3 buttons. I like the sound of the saxophone, but that looked very complicated to me. So little did I know.
Yeah, exactly.
The other way around.
It's not really that
famous
easy.
last words.
Yeah, not really that
I'll
easy.
take that simple one with the 3 buttons.
Yeah,
there,
right. No, I like the sound of the trumpet.
Yeah.
So, I told my parents I wanted to play the trumpet, and then found out that my dad had played trumpet when he was younger, and so he actually dug out his old horn, and at the same time I was discovering my parents' old records. They had 78 RPM records from the swing era, of Benny Goodman and Duke Ellington and Count Basie, stuff like that, and so I actually was falling in love with the music. At the same time, I was picking up the horn and falling in love with the horn. And I kind of, from the very beginning, just thought, well, this is what I'd like to do, just from that. And I actually started putting bands together while I was still in elementary school.
Cool.
A friend of mine and I put together a big band.
That's impressive.
We were like buying arrangements with our newspaper route money and stuff. My friend's father was the junior high band director, so he was able to help us as far as showing us where you can buy arrangements, and he had some that we could use, and we were getting ringers from the junior high band to fill out the big band, and so we were kind of crazy kids that were going around on our bikes to antique stores looking for old records and stuff like that. But I kind of got into it right away.
I actually started on saxophone because my dad was a saxophonist, and I just, at that age, I just wanted to do anything like him. So I just was like, all right, Dad plays sax, I'm gonna play sax. But I just couldn't get the instrument. I just couldn't play the thing at all. It took me a year just to learn how to tongue a note and then when I would go to his gigs, I'd see all these great drummers, and I picked up the stick and boom, immediately made a sound. So I was like, oh, all right, that seems a lot easier. That seems a lot more fun. So again, little did I know how much harder the drums were than the saxophone. And so I was doing that, and pretty much right from the get-go, I knew I wanted to play music, but I'm not sure if I wanted to do it professionally. And I used to just go to a lot of my dad's gigs and stuff, and then he took my whole family to New Orleans for spring break one year. We went and saw these great New Orleans drummers, specifically Shannon Powell. I remember the first time I heard him, and he gave me these crazy chills up my spine and everything. I remember thinking, man, I want to learn how to play drums like that, bring that feeling to people and stuff. Same thing, I just rummaged through all my dad's record collections and stuff like that. Just really got into it that way.
So then what's like the biggest challenge you've had to face to get to where you are now? In terms of musically.
Yeah, you want to go first, Charles?
Biggest challenge. I guess my biggest challenge was getting my technique better together because when I was pretty self-taught for a really long time on the drums, and then most of the lessons I did take were basically all based around like timekeeping, having a good feel and stuff like that. But I never really got down to my rudiments and reading music at that was and playing in different time signatures and stuff. It wasn't until I went to school that I really started to learn how to read and had to hunker down on my fundamental rudiments and playing with a metronome, and it continues to be a challenge for me to do that stuff.
Biggest challenge? Paying the bills?
It's a good answer.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I would say that it's being a musician. It's what I've always wanted to be, and I feel blessed to be able to do that. But there's times when it's frustrating because it's just the cost of living keeps going up, but the pay for gigs does not. So there's times when that's frustrating or challenging. But then as soon as things start to look kind of bleak, then usually the phone rings or the emails come in, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess this fall is not going to be so bad. Okay, it actually it's going to be good. Oh, okay, yeah.
But sometimes you can feel like you're working all the time, but
Yeah.
nothing doesn't amount to much because just the
just little
especially
things
in New
here and
York, just playing in town and the clubs and the joints. It's just sometimes it can seem that way.
Yeah.
I would say so. I definitely agree with John in that end. That's just part of the business that we all have to deal with.
Right.
I would say also musically, I think it's I love. I grew up really playing bebop in New York, and my big influences were Bud Powell and Elmo Hope and Thelonious Monk and those guys. But later on, the last 10, 12 years, I've really gotten into the older stuff. So like James P. and Fats and Teddy Wilson and Art Tatum, and even though those are different worlds, but they're very related because they're all a pianistic tradition. Sometimes it's challenging, like bringing them together and making them your own because they're so different. You know what I mean? And it's just they're sometimes they're different worlds. So like you try to bridge those two worlds, and sometimes that can come up. You feel like you can fall short, or you're not sure it's working, and so I mean that's always something for me. That's challenging. To deal with that.
So as you're talking about then some influences, what are you currently listening to?
What am I currently?
Not necessarily jazz,
currently
just like could be old classics, could be some trap core.
I actually was on a gig before this in South Africa, and there wasn't much on the TV, and I just said, what the heck, I'm gonna put on MTV, and I watched MTV, just to see what's going on today in pop music. Not that that's everything. I mean, that's only in Of course, I saw the same 10 music videos over and over again. But I like a lot of different things. I love classical music. I love Brazilian music. I love all kinds of jazz. I love I listen to Indian music. I mean, I really listen to everything.
Yeah, nice. Any changes on that, or do you concur? You have anything to add to that? Something you're listening to?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got kind of a huge record collection, actual records, as well as CDs and downloads and you name it, every format, cassettes. I even have. What were those things for a little while? Those little discs.
Mini discs.
Mini discs.
I found my collection of them recently.
Yeah, for a little while I was taking my 78s and putting them onto mini discs because I've moved around, and every time I move I end up breaking some of the 78s because they're kind of fragile. I should just put them all onto that so that I have them in a nice digital form, and then it's like, You know,
Yeah,
I wish
I thought the mini discs were going to be the
Yeah.
new technology
Yeah.
that we would all leap onto. As well.
Yeah, so that wasn't the best
Yeah.
choice, but it was better than nothing, I guess.
You still have a reader? You still have a mini disc?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good.
I
At
haven't
least that.
used it.
I don't have my. I just found the mini discs.
Yeah, I just have it somewhere, you know. And but you know, I go through different phases with listening. I like to listen to all kinds of music, but lately I've been going back and listening to Howard McGee a bunch just lately, and kind of revisiting like some of the early bop and swing to bop stuff, like from the early '40s, like including him and Fats Navarro, and but I really like all like Ehud. I like a lot of different types of music, all the different types of jazz. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place usually with my listening.
Charles?
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah,
I
thought so.
jump all over the place also, but recently I've been checking out some more because my mother's from Haiti, so I've been checking out some more traditional Haitian like folkloric music and stuff like that, trying to just figure out where that stuff ties into my playing and music in general. So it's been fun.
Cool. So, what is it? So, what's your creative process for writing or arranging? And is there anything that you've come up with that you felt particularly proud of? A small little melody or something, or?
What's my creative process for writing and arranging?
I know it's a broad question.
No, you know what? It's funny. Like when I write tunes, original, I find that they actually come to me rather quickly. Because I always like to write songs that feel like the arrangement is built into them already. Like for me, that's the height of the great jazz composers did that. You know, whether it was Duke or Count Basie or Tad Dameron or Horace Silver. It was almost like they didn't need an arrangement because the arrangement was just in the tune. So I aspire to that, and there's something like I like to try to write songs that are kind of simple, like in melodies. So often when I get an idea, it just kind of, it actually happens pretty quickly. I mean, maybe I could make it better if I spend more time on it, but I don't do that. And then when I play and I practice, that's really varied because it changes with like what you're practicing or how you want to practice. So that is always changing, and sometimes you listen to something and you try to learn it and imitate it. Other times you just try to capture the spirit, but take your own take on it. Sometimes you limit yourself to one technical thing just to focus on one thing. So I mean that's like that really changes all the time, I think, and that would be a longer conversation.
Yeah, of course.
With me, I do enjoy composing, but I don't get around to it very much. I guess I'm sort of lazy. Often it's like I do that when I have a specific reason to. Like I'm about to do record an album, or I'm on a friend's album. They asked me if I had any tunes to bring to the session. I'll say, oh, okay, and I get to thinking like I like writing for specific combinations of people. Actually, I get inspired by like, oh, okay, let's see this. What would sound good for this group, or what, or even sometimes like I've been done albums where there was like a 2-day recording session, and after the first day, I got an idea for like what songs we have, and I think, well, what do we need on this album that we don't have? Like what kind of feel like. We don't have any Latin, so I'll write a Latin to it or something. Or instead of just picking one that exists, or like we don't have really a good greasy kind of tune, so let's see, I'll come up with something for that, and that's been a lot of the times my best stuff was kind of like, again, sort of quickly put together, but with a real specific kind of purpose, like okay, we need this, okay, great, all right, and then I go into action, because I think as jazz players, improvisers, in a way we're composing all the time, and so it's a little bit like that. It's like, well, what do I do? Okay, let me come up with an idea that I think is worth playing more than once, or something that might be memorable, or that you can hang your hat on, and like, you know, somebody could walk away whistling it or something like that. One tune that I wrote that I kind of proud of, that I called it Panic in Hamtramck. And that Hamtramck is the city within the city of Detroit that I used to live in before I moved to New York. And again, this was exactly what I was just saying, where I was doing a recording of my own, and I wanted to put a couple of originals on there, and I thought, well, everything else is kind of like swing beat, and I'll do something that's a little kind of you know, Latin more or less, but it was actually more of like an African kind of a beat to it. But I was thinking at the time, kind of a little bit like what Ehud was talking about, blending my interest in the traditional jazz with some of my interests in, you know, like hard bop and that kind of stuff. So that song, I thought, I'm going to try and write a plunger feature kind of thing for myself, but sort of a la Horace Silver almost, you know, like, because oddly in modern jazz you don't hear the plunger used very much. So I thought, well, it would be kind of cool to think of a sort of a modern jazz piece that
brings it
that
back.
has plunger trumpet, and like I said, just something that's not a regular swing beat, just to mix things up on that album. So I was kind of happy with how that worked out.
Awesome. I'm actually opposite of these guys. It usually takes me a really long time to write stuff, because being a drummer, I don't have like the instrument in front of me to come up with something that feels good in my hands or on the piano or whatever. The drums, it's like, yeah, I can come up with a beat. But if I come up with a beat, that's usually super quick or something. But whenever I'm thinking of a song or a tune, actually a lot of times, if I get inspired on the train or something, I'm humming something, I'll record it on my iPhone, and then I'll just have a huge bank of melodies I've sung and stuff like that, and then I'll take it to the piano, and it usually takes me about, you know, a week or two to be able to figure out what harmony I want to put under it, because again, it takes me extremely long time to figure out what I'm playing on the piano and stuff. But yeah, it's usually what I do. So I usually just find one theme and then go crazy with it.
And so then the last question, so for viewers who want to know more or get, you know, what's the best way of following you, through Facebook or through your own websites, or what is it?
For me,
I'll link them all at the bottom.
It would definitely be my website. That's ehudpiano.com, EHUD piano.com. And then, but I also have a YouTube channel and everything like that. I think.
I have a website, but I don't update it very often. It's Kellso Jazz, KELLSO Jazz.com. But I'm on Facebook a lot, as opposed to this guy who's not at all. So yeah, I spend kind of too much time on Facebook. So you can find me on there. I have like a regular page, and then I have a Jon-Erik Kellso musician page, and then I have the Irregulars page, because I lead a band Sunday nights at a place called the Ear in New York, and so we call the band the Irregulars. Nice. So it's EARRE, you know.
Regulars.
It's one of the best gigs in New York, so for people who don't live there, when they come on a Sunday, they should go there.
Cool,
Yeah, I'm mainly pretty active on Instagram. Just type in my name, Charles Goold, and you'll find me. I'm probably going to be changing this handle soon, but in the meantime, you can find me at Chuck Jeezy. It's kind of a dumb handle, but I'm pretty up on Instagram, and I have a website also, charlesgouldmusic.com, and I'm on Facebook as well. I try to update all the stuff as much as I can remember to. So yeah, you can check my stuff out on there.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
1% battery left.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Fucking hell.